Good morning, I'm Russ Mitchell and welcome to 7 Minutes. Our guest today is a bona fide rock star, and he's from right here in Northeast Ohio. Eric Carmen rocked the music world with hits like Go All the Way with the Raspberries back in the early 70s, and all by himself, Eric Carmen has cranked out mega hits like Hungry Eyes, Never Gonna Fall in Love Again, Make Me Lose Control, and yes, that aforementioned song that has become one of the most played, most recorded songs of all time. Eric's latest release is The Essential Eric Carmen on Sony Legacy Music, and Eric Carmen joins us today for 7 Minutes. Sir, thanks very much for having us today, and welcome to 7 Minutes.
My pleasure being here, Russ.
When you were growing up in Lyndhurst, did you have any dreams that you'd ever have an Essential Eric Carmen album?
I actually didn't. I hoped that I would have one hit record, you know. I had lofty musical goals, but I didn't. If someone had said, you're going to be around 45 years later, I would have said, wow.
Well, you've done okay. Let's go back. At 3 years old, you were the youngest student in the Cleveland School of Music, right?
Cleveland Institute, yeah.
Institute of Music. 6 years old, you're a prodigy, considered a prodigy. 11 years old, you're playing violin. What about music was so magical to you at that age?
My parents told me I could sing before most kids could talk. And they must have seen something. My dad's sister was the first woman George Zell hired to play in the Cleveland Symphony back in about 1950, because Zell didn't want to hire girls. And when I was a kid, 5, 6, 7 years old, I used to go to all the rehearsals and play in the balconies of Severance Hall, and I would sometimes let me sit on stage with them while they rehearsed. I closed down a rehearsal one day when I think I hid in Alice Chalafou's harp case and no one could find me. It's like, where's Ricky? And so growing up, sitting, you know, in the audience and also on stage with the greatest symphony in the world was huge. And
well, it had to be just wear on you and certainly get into your blood even more than it was at that point. At 15, you started playing guitar?
Yes.
Now, did your family, knowing this classically, you were classically trained, did they go, oh my gosh, Eric has gone rogue?
They didn't. I think they saw it coming. You know, I was one of those kids sitting on the floor watching the Ed Sullivan Show the night the Beatles were on the first time. And you know, everybody my age that I know that's in a band or that played music has the same story. I mean, they saw the Beatles and they went, wow, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, you became, of course, a part of the Cleveland music scene, eventually hooking up with these guys and becoming the Raspberries. I'm going to move ahead now.
Go ahead.
Go All the Way, 1972, your big, first huge hit.
Yes.
Do you recall what it was like hearing that on the radio for the first time?
It was very, very exciting. Just to hear, wow, I did it. You know, I actually can do it. And it went on to sell 1,200,000 copies. It went top 5 in the United States. And that was, you know, up until then, I thought, I think I can do this. I seem to, you know, I see other groups, I think I can do better than that. And then Go All the Way kind of cemented it. It's like, I can do this.
I can remember I was 12 years old when that came out. I remember I knew at 12 years old that was a pretty risque song for top 40 radio at that time. Did you get some pushback?
It was banned in England.
Okay.
My thought was if we got it played, it would go top 10 just on the title, and if they banned it, that probably would kick album sales in. So as it turns out, it did go top 5, and you know, it started the ball rolling. It was risque for 1972, but the backstory on that is I remember watching the Rolling Stones on the Ed Sullivan Show when they had "Let's Spend the Night Together" was out, and I to this day I can see Mick's face. And he's rolling his eyes every time he had to sing, "Let's spend some time together."
Because Ed Sullivan did not want them to say,
"Let's spend the night together." He would not let them say, "Let's spend the night together." And Mick was really upset. And at the same time, I was listening to "Pet Sounds" by the Beach Boys, and I was thinking, you know, Brian Wilson's getting away with some fairly risque lines in here. And the difference is that the Beach Boys are very non-threatening, and they sing like choir boys. So Now, maybe the idea is I can sneak this by, but we've got to do something different with it. We can't be threatening and
Right.
like the Stones. And if we sing it like choir boys, and then actually what I did is turn the lyric around and had the girl say it to the guy.
Right, right.
So that made it a little, that was the twist.
We've got about 3 minutes left. Your first big hit as a solo artist when you went to All By Yourself. What is All By Myself?
What? Well, I started writing it actually while I was still in the Raspberries, and it started from the big piano interlude that's in the middle, and it was just put together 4 bars at a time.
Your classical roots came back.
Yeah,
Right?
well, the classical part in the middle is all mine. But I just played a little bit one day and said, oh, that's nice. And a couple days later, I added a little more to it, and pretty soon I had this 3 or 4 minute interlude, and I thought, well, I have to find something to put it into the middle of. And I was listening to Rachmaninoff's Second Piano Concerto, which is my favorite piece of music in the world. And at some point it struck me that there was melody in there that I could adapt, and that turned into the verse of All By Myself.
Well, that song, I mean, let's put it out there. I mean, is huge, obviously. Everyone has sung that. I mean, you sang a big hit. Celine Dion, Frank Sinatra. I think Eddie Murphy sings it in Shrek.
Yes.
Are you surprised, or were you surprised just how huge that song is?
Well, after my version became a big hit, it seemed like every singer recorded it or sang it. And some of them were fantastic. Some of them were funny, very funny. But it's a great song. Artists, I think, generally feel all by themselves. It's a universal sentiment, but artists especially feel that way. And I think a lot of people identified with it.
You have said, I've read in interviews, that you think you owe a lot of your longevity to the fact that you are a great songwriter. You've established.
I think the songs stand the test of time.
So I guess the question, we got a minute left, of very quick questions. I mean, what are the 2 great things? 2 things that make a great song, very quickly.
Great melody and a universal lyric. Universal in that if you can find a title and a lyric that, like All By Myself, who in the world has not felt that way at some point?
Sure.
The first line of Brand New Year, it's been a long, hard year. Right. Who hasn't felt that way?
And you wrote that song last November, first song you wrote in 18 years. Let me ask you in the 15 seconds we have left, is there an Eric Carmen song right now that describes your life as we speak?
Describes my life. And, Great Expectations, maybe, from my first album, which was kind of, the opposite of what it was.
I got 10 seconds.
Okay. I know. I feel like I'm with Dick Clark. His head goes, tick, tick, done.
Our time's up. We'll have to get the sequel from you.
I can't think of something that particularly describes my life now.
All right. We're going to bonus time here. Going to be out on the road? Are we going to see you anytime soon?
We're talking about it.
Okay.
Just talking about it. It's the guys that from Brian Wilson's band that I recorded Brand New Year with.
Well, I think if anybody deserves more than 7 minutes, it's you.
All right. Thank you.
Eric Carmen, again, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Russ.
It's been a pleasure. And that is all for this week. I'll see you Monday at 6 on the news, and back here next week for 7 minutes. Have a great holiday weekend.